Hello friends, welcome back to my garden. Today we're talking about one of the most popular crops to grow, tomatoes. But with how much information is floating around out there, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions about what tomatoes really need to thrive. So in this video, I'm going to break down the top 5 misconceptions when it comes to growing tomatoes. Hopefully this clears up some confusion and helps you grow healthier plants with better harvests. Let's start with the biggest misconception of them all, and that's that pruning out suckers will increase your tomato production. Pruning suckers is a pruning strategy. It's not an increasing production strategy. It actually reduces production because those suckers would have grown into branches that produce flowers and fruit later on. Pruning suckers helps to decide which branches to keep and which to remove in order to open the plant up. This helps increase airflow and sunlight, which is especially useful in areas with high pest and disease pressure, like here in my Florida garden, or if you're growing tomato plants pretty close together. Too much foliage and not enough airflow will cause the diseases to spread like crazy, and pests easily hide in the dense leaves. So I prune to prevent these issues, because if I don't, my harvest will be severely decreased. If you're gardening in a normal climate that doesn't have as much diseases and pests like I do here in Florida, then pruning is not that necessary. In fact, many gardeners in normal climates report to me that they don't prune at all and get huge production. So the real choice is about balance. In some gardens, pruning suckers is worth it because it leads to healthier plants that produce more long term. In other gardens where disease and pest pressure aren't as bad, pruning might just cut down on production unnecessarily. It's not a one-size-fits-all rule. Experiment to see if pruning helps improve the health of your tomato plants, which in turn helps you get a decent harvest, or if you don't notice much difference, then don't waste your time pruning. Another common misconception is that tomatoes need heavy fertilizing all of the time. While tomatoes are heavy feeders, too much fertilizer, especially nitrogen, leads to lush, leafy plants with very little fruit. Tomatoes do best with a balanced fertilizer at the beginning to encourage growth after transplanting into the garden. But once you see flower clusters, it's time to back off on nitrogen and use a fertilizer higher in phosphorus and potassium, because these two nutrients are responsible for flower and fruit production. I really like to use a bloom booster type of fertilizer once my tomato plants enter the flowering stage. I'll link the one that I use in the description. Think of it like feeding them what they need at the right time instead of dumping fertilizer on them constantly. One of the most common comments I see when people ask why their tomato plants aren't producing fruit is, "You must not have enough bees in your garden." But here's the truth. Tomatoes don't actually need bees to pollinate. Tomatoes are self-pollinating plants, which means each flower has both the male and female parts inside. They don't rely on insects the way cucumbers or squash do. Unless you're growing a parthenocarpic variety of cucumber or squash, but that's a whole conversation for another day. Instead, tomatoes are pollinated by movement, usually from the wind. So they are what we call wind pollinated. Another example of a wind pollinated crop is corn. When the wind shakes the flowers, the male part releases pollen that falls right onto the female pistil inside the same flower, and that's how pollination happens. So if your tomato plants are full of flowers but not setting fruit, it's not a bee problem, it's a movement problem. The flowers might just need a little extra help. I like to gently shake or tap my plants as I walk by, or you can use an electric toothbrush near the flowers to mimic the vibration of wind. Both work great. Now, that's not to say bees don't help. When bees visit, they do assist with pollination by moving pollen from flower to flower, which can increase fruit set, but it's not the main way tomato flowers get pollinated. So remember, wind and vibration are what your tomato flowers really need. If you're not seeing fruit, try giving those flowers a gentle shake every day or two. When I learned this little trick, my tomato production increased greatly. Let's talk about one of the biggest myths in tomato growing, the idea that you can do something to make your tomatoes taste sweeter. I see this everywhere online, but here's the truth. That's not how tomato flavor works. The flavor of a tomato actually comes down to two main things: the genetics of the variety you're growing and the mineral content of your soil. So for example, take the famous San Marzano tomato from Italy. It's known around the world for its incredible flavor. But if you plant those same San Marzano seeds here in the US, your tomatoes won't taste the same. And that's not because you did anything wrong, it's because your soil is completely different. The soil in Italy where San Marzanos are grown is volcanic, and volcanic soil is naturally rich in minerals. That mineral balance is what gives their tomatoes that distinct deep flavor. Here in the US, most of us don't have volcanic soil, so even with the same seeds, the flavor won't be identical. Typically what I see online are people claiming that planting basil next to your tomato plants or fertilizing or amending with Epsom salts will improve the sweet flavor of your tomatoes. Now, basil does make a great companion plant, not because it changes tomato flavor, but because its strong smell helps deter pests like aphids and whiteflies. So it's still a great idea to grow them together, just for a different reason. And as for Epsom salt, that's another one I hear a lot. People say it makes tomatoes sweeter, but it doesn't. What it actually does is supply magnesium, which helps plants produce chlorophyll. So if your tomato leaves are turning a weird yellow-green color, a small dose of Epsom salt can help green them up. But be careful, especially if you garden here in Florida where the soil is already naturally high in salts. Adding more Epsom salt can make things worse over time by causing salt buildup. So in short, basil doesn't sweeten tomatoes and Epsom salt doesn't either. Flavor comes from your variety and your soil. But both basil and magnesium have their own benefits, just not in the way that most people think. My last misconception is that you can add something to treat for blossom end rot. I see this everywhere, people adding crushed eggshells, Epsom salt, or liquid calcium to fix blossom end rot, but that's not actually what's going on. Blossom end rot isn't caused by a lack of calcium in the soil, it's caused by the plant's inability to absorb calcium through its roots. And that usually happens because of inconsistent soil moisture. When the soil goes from too wet to too dry, back and forth, the plant's roots can't pull up nutrients properly, especially calcium. That's what causes those black sunken spots on the bottom of your fruit. The truth is, most soils already have plenty of calcium. It's the watering pattern, not the calcium level, that's usually the problem. The real solution is to keep your soil moisture consistent. Mulch around your plants to help the soil hold water evenly, and pay attention to your watering schedule, not too much, not too little. Here in Florida, I notice blossom end rot most often during the rainy season because the soil stays too wet for too long. In those conditions, even though the soil is full of nutrients, the roots can't breathe, so the plant can't uptake calcium. Once your fruit develops blossom end rot, there's no cure. It's not going to heal or turn back red and healthy. The best thing you can do is pick off any affected fruit so the plant can focus its energy on producing new, healthy ones. Now, I do sometimes give my plants a quick drench of liquid calcium magnesium to help prevent new fruit from developing the problem. And that can help a little bit in the short term, but it's just a temporary fix. The real long-term solution is balancing soil moisture. If you deal with too much rain like I do here in Florida, try growing your tomatoes in grow bags, containers, or raised beds to improve drainage. So remember, blossom end rot isn't a calcium problem, it's a water balance problem. Keep your soil moisture steady and your tomatoes will thank you with beautiful, healthy fruit. So there you have it, 5 of the most common misconceptions about growing tomatoes. I hope this clears up some confusion and saves you time and frustration in your own garden. Tomatoes are honestly my favorite thing to grow, so I have a ton of videos all about how to grow them and even variety comparison, taste tests, and reviews. Check out my tomato playlist to view all of the videos. If you'd like to grow the same delicious varieties I have in my garden, you can find my tomato seeds on my seed and plant nursery website. I'll leave a link in the description. If you found this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe for more gardening tips, and share it with a friend who's growing tomatoes this season. Thank you for watching and happy gardening.